Hey, yo, what's the deal? Man, it's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording right now, it is 3:30 p.m., August 6th, 2025, you know what I mean? Right now, like, my mom had visited me, so I'm actually waiting on her, on her phone call, you know what I mean? She dropped some food off, you know what I mean? Like, she dropped some, she dropped some yellow rice and some lasagna, you know what I mean? And also some stuffing. You know, she had stuffing from a neighbor that, from her next door neighbor who could cook. So, you know what I mean? My mom was kind enough to give me some leftover food. So like, hell yeah, I'll take it. So let me drink some water because I want to talk about this too. So this is from, the previous video that I did. And I want to have a continuation of it because, it seems like we knew the AEW creative control option was going to get out of hand. And even though, yes, if you think about this, right? If you legit think about the optics of, and this, I'm also going to talk about something else too. I want to talk about Triple H as well, But if you think about the optics of, the Hurt Syndicate and such with creative control and how they're booked in AEW, right? Realistically, let's keep it a buck. Realistic wise, right? They can beat the shit out of any tag team. You know what I mean? Shoot wise, they can, look how big Bobby Lashley is. You know what I mean? Shelton Benjamin was an amateur wrestler. Yeah, I mean, an all-American amateur wrestler. This motherfucker was with Brock Lesnar, in the University of Minnesota. Even though it's funny that they both tag team with each other too, the Minnesota Stretching Crew. But back in the I was gonna say OVW back in 2001. But realistically, they are supposed to beat the shit out of these little guys, right? But this is pro wrestling. You know what I mean? So, with the creative control, everything all boils down to one fucking person. Tony Khan. Tony Khan. This is why I say Tony Khan is not a leader. He's not. He's not a real man, yo. He's not a real man. Like he's more of a yes man to these people. Like, yes. So he doesn't challenge, he doesn't challenge the Hurt Syndicate. He doesn't challenge, shit, he don't even challenge Mercedes Moné. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't challenge her. You know what I'm saying? Look who else had creative control. And it was a fucking mess. Jon Moxley, Adam Copeland. Remember that? They both didn't want to lose to each other. You know what I'm saying? This company, when it comes down to creative control, like there's nothing there. Like there's no middleman. There's no fucking middleman. This is basically the same shit that happened with WCW. Now, I mean, WCW, this is what fucked them up. You know what I mean? Because you had a creative writer, Vince Russo, right? And then you let the boys run the asylum. I mean, they come on, P. Come on, man. Like, this company is a joke, man. This company is a motherfucking joke. And you want to sit there and tell me that everything is okay in this company? No, the fuck it's not. It's not. Creative-wise, it's not. And then, remember last week that there was a report that, they were starting to do production meetings and such, right? You do production meetings, but yet you're still giving motherfuckers creative control. How stupid are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, we could write something, we could put something out, and then let's see if this guy approve or if this girl approve. I'm like, come on, man. Now I see why so many people want to leave AEW and go to WWE. I see why. Because of not only being on TV, but, when you got the Hurt Syndicate saying no to shit, like, no, we're not going to lose to, we're not going to lose to this. We're not going to lose to that. I'm like, wow, this is, man. And you know what? Shout out to JD from New York because he said something that made me think. I just seen his video today about this topic, right? And he said he would not be surprised if, the Young Bucks have their redemption story, right? Where they beat FTR not FTR, the Hurt Syndicate for the tag team championships. Even the Hurt Syndicate will probably say no. Like, fuck that. We're not losing to these guys. Fuck out of here. And yes, do I think that AEW needs to build their tag division? Yes, I do. Yes, I fucking do. Yes, I do. Because they have no credible tag teams. They have none. They don't got none. You know what I mean? Like the only longevitized tag team that they had in their history, there was only three: the Young Bucks, FTR, and the Lucha Bros. You know what I mean? All the other teams that was there, they floundered. What happened to Best Friends? Huh? What happened to fucking Best Friends? Chuck Taylor and this guy. What happened to them? And Trent Beretta. What happened to them? You know what I mean? What happened to fucking Aussie Open? Huh? What happened to fucking, what's his face? Private Party. What happened to the Outrunners? You know what I mean? Like, you gotta think, man. You gotta think. See, if this was Triple H, you know what I mean? If this was Triple H knows how to book. He knows how to book people, right? And yes, even though the creative might have slipped, and you know what? Fuck it. Let's get to Triple H for a bit, right? Because I seen a video of, from the Off the Mic Sports network that I'm gonna respond to. Triple H he sees all this. You know why? Because Triple H is a real motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like when it comes down to his creative, I'd rather trust his shit than Tony Khan. Even though what's his face is slipped. You know what I mean? His creative slipped, but still, I have more faith in Triple H than I do in fucking Tony Khan. You know what I mean? Now, in the video from the Off the Mic Sports Network, he had mentioned something about how he feels like Triple H is starting to turn into Vince. That, the WWE doesn't really care about the fans. They don't care. They're going to do what they're going to do and shit like that, right? I highly disagree, but I know what he's talking about. Even I thought about this too. I was like, is Triple H starting to turn to Vince? Is he starting to turn into his father-in-law, right? Which is going with certain things and such because of the whole Brock Lesnar situation, right? It's kind of, listen, I say more 46, I say more 40-60. Yes, you heard me correctly, 40-60. That he's starting to turn into his father-in-law, right? In certain aspects, right? With the El Americano and, and everything else. But hold on for a minute. Sorry about that. I had to pick up the phone. El Grande Americano and everything else, you know what I'm saying? But, still entertaining. But with bringing back Brock Lesnar, again, I didn't feel that was a problem. Yes, even though there's still an issue with the Janelle Grant case and such. His name was being floated around 44 times and shit, right? But it honestly doesn't matter because, he picked up a lot of stuff from his father-in-law, period. That's why his father-in-law was fucking successful. You know what I mean? So is he starting to turn into his father-in-law in terms of, who's going to sell? Maybe. May fucking be. Maybe. But that doesn't mean that he's going to shit on, the rest of the roster that he has. You know what I mean? Like, you think that man don't see everything that's going on? See, it's the difference between him and Vince. Yes, there are some Vince traits there, right? Clearly, I mean, there's the man who he learned under, right? Even though when Vince was there, they kind of didn't see things eye to eye and such, right? But this is, This is the man who basically learned under Vince, right? When it came down to, the successful part, right? So you could say his creative slipped a bit, but I can tell you one thing though. At least I'd rather trust him way more than Tony Khan. See, it's the difference between Triple H and Tony Khan. Okay? Tony Khan lets these people do whatever the fuck they want to do. Right? And he lets the company just sink. It's gonna sink lower and lower and lower. You know what I mean? Triple H will handle that shit quickly. They got real niggas over there in WWE that could shut shit down. Imagine a brawl out happening in WWE, right? Triple H would have came there and sorted that shit out completely as real men. You know what I mean? Sat on a fucking table, chop it up, do business. You know what I'm saying? So Vince would have done that shit too. That's another thing with Vince. Vince would have done that. Vince clearly would have done that. Vince wouldn't play that shit. You know what I mean? Vince would definitely not play that shit. And you know what? Triple H is also smart for not giving, motherfuckers creative control, right? That's one thing he took from Vince, right? That creative control shit's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. This is why WWE built a structure. And sometimes it's good to, it's good to have structure. I mean, more than likely, the difference between Triple H and Vince on that part is, yes, even, Triple H asks for wrestlers' input and such, right? But in terms of creative control, like, nah, fuck that. You know what I mean? Fuck that shit. That's like giving Roman Reigns huge creative control, to beat Cody at WrestleMania. And then also Cody has creative control and he refuses to lose to Roman, right? WWE don't play that shit. People can say, oh, they got creative control there. Oh, man, that doesn't mean a motherfucking thing. Because no matter what happens, you still got to go through one person, Tony Khan, right? And he doesn't even filter if what you got is great or not. That's one thing that, I can respect about Triple H. And Vince did that too. You know what I mean? So, listen, if this was Triple H's idea to bring Brock back, okay, great. Brock did numbers and everything else. But who knows if this was more than just a Triple H decision. Could have been a Nick Khan decision. Could have been an Ari Emanuel decision. We don't know. Nobody fucking knows. Know what I mean? But, if Triple H is starting to turn into Vince in terms of the booking and such, right? Without the sexual allegations, I'd rather have that. You know why? Because, again, there are differences. There are differences. At least you don't see fucking Triple H, fucking booking big men all the time and such. Like, he gives people chances and such. You know what I mean? He gives motherfuckers chances and everything, right? And also, if you don't think that man is seeing everything what's going on at AEW, right? If you don't think that man is going to take opportunity to snatch up big names, and he's capable of doing it at this point. Well, I mean big names from AEW. We're talking about big names. From the EVPs to the fucking, to the talent under. If you don't think that man is going to be like a shark, you know what I mean? Then you are sadly fucking mistaken. I would rather take this version of Triple H, right? As Vince is what they're saying, way more than Tony Khan is doing, where he's just, he's Vince. He's worse. He's worse than Vince. He's fucking worse than Vince. You know what I mean? So I would rather take Triple H as Vince McMahon than Tony Khan, at this point. But anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I definitely will be coming with another video tonight for sure. So I'm going to holler at y'all. All right? Peace.